Well, you covered a lot of what I was going to ask, so that's great. So I'll go down to the basics. As a marketing person, how much do you think the art of communication has been replaced by the prediction of mathematics when you talk about Gen AI?
No, I mean, like I said, significantly, because uh, when I began life in 97, 98, 99, everybody around the table knew everything about print advertising and filmmaking and television. The ad agencies used to have media houses within them. And so you were dealing with a fully comprehensive entity. Today it's become fragmented like this and fragmented like that, right? So if you're making a film, the animation on top comes from somebody else, the scripting happens somewhere else, etc. So much more disaggregated. But I think the fundamental difference is, earlier it used to be the rate card era. I can make an ad, nobody can touch it. I go to Anurag, he has a publication, he has circulation. I put the ad in, I get that much circulation going. Then came the peer-to-peer era. If I like it, I push it to you. Now it is being controlled algorithmically and programmatically, and nobody publishes their program or their algorithmic logic. From time to time, regulation, etc., compels them to give you a peek into that system, but they give you very generic, like it is based on recency, interest, engagement. That's like saying we deal with Indians because they have black hair, black eyes, I mean, it's very generic. So every advertising medium deals with people based on engagement and impact. But the storytelling, therefore, lives for much shorter period in time. Suddenly the whole world is interested in Gangnam Style, then, Cola Very D, then it just goes away. It's like T20. You make a lot more money and be famous, but, I think the generational, like Sachin Tendulkar, my grandfather knew and my son knew by the time he retired. He had an exceptional career. But that was true of film stars, that was true of journalists, that was, Today, it's a very short-lived but very spiky. So earlier you were in story building a 1 meter high wall which was 1 kilometer long. Now it is a 1 kilometer tall wall which is 1 meter wide. It's the same thing, but it's changed very much.
Okay. And, as you mentioned, you've been in very senior marketing roles since 2011. And so instead of the headlines, can you give us the minutiae? What has changed in your experience in the last?
No, like I said, the arrival of digital marketing has been a very, very, very significant change. When I was marketing manager in Hindustan Lever for deodorants, used to have small budgets like 4 crores. We used to do everything else and then say, "Acha, itna lakh rupees bache, kuch digital bhi kar lo." It was like an interesting side thing. Today, your digital, your programmatic, your mainstream lead generation is on social media. What I spend, and I spend a lot of money on digital, it's 1/3 to the Meta ecosystem, say 1/3 to Google and 1/3 to aggregators. That has been a significant change. Another significant change is the rise of influencers. Earlier, if you wanted to make a film, you had to go to an ad agency or a production house. Today, there are literally a million influencers online who do nearly as good a job. And what that has resulted in is there is no credential building required. There are people who are famous for being famous. This is only possible in the internet era. Unke baare mein koi nahi janta. My son and I went to Qatar to see the football World Cup. And suddenly he broke away from me and he went running, And I didn't know what had happened. And so there was a tall, young guy, a white man, wearing shorts. And he took some name. Oh, he's the whatever, he's the feast or the beast. I don't know what his name was. And then, he was like, I would have been when I saw Amitabh Bachchan as a kid, And then he shook his, I was completely oblivious who this bloke was, And so he said, oh my God, he's there. And then he went on to his social media to prove that he had actually encountered him in a mall in Qatar. And I was thinking, मैं तो इतना खर्चा करता हूँ, मुझे पता भी नहीं कि ये शख्स exist करता है. That means people are tall and famous, but in segments of which I have no knowledge. Earlier it was not like that. Everybody knew who were famous, and there was common acceptance for who were famous. Now there are people who are, like I said, famous for being famous, and one doesn't have any clue about them.
Right.
Till they, till you're told about them, or they attend a wedding or whatever.
Yeah. And now that you're with Tata Motors, which is a very, how do I put it? it's a legacy brand, but which also has a lot of trust, right? So how do you reconcile that with the fact that, like, any jackass could make a Tata Motors ad tomorrow and put it up on the internet, and it might perhaps be sort of viewed?
Yeah, so I'm not speaking here for or on behalf of Tata Motors. Anurag invited me individual capacity, but I can say it's a very powerful point you bring up that the more Tata is a storied, trusted, loved brand in India. It's India's most valuable brand. It has been around as a leader for 165 years. So when generically people respond to Tata, they see it as a community builder, as doing what's right for the nation, trustworthy. Trust is the fundamental pillar for Tata equity, and that then flows through to all group companies. And therefore, in customer experience, it is a very, very valuable asset. It is in fact the spirit and soul of what we do. So if somebody, for example, was spoofing, people, because they've encountered that trust for from millions of encounters across 100 years, they would know this is not the tone, character, and voice of Tata or Tata Motors. Versus a new brand that may have shot to fame in 2 years, people don't have a benchmark for them. So there the ability to manipulate public opinion by mischief is much more. So we are blessed to be part of a group and a name that is revered.
Right. And you had mentioned the Meta AI on WhatsApp, which you don't even have to. It's just there. You don't even have to sign up for it. But once you click yes, it sort of reads everything that you're writing or you've written or whatever. So, and now that especially in a market like India, which is heavily driven by WhatsApp, where's the trust? Like, how do you figure out the trust in that particular circumstance, or the accountability?
So, I'm a big user of WhatsApp myself. I quite appreciate its commercial usages as well. But we must recognize there is an element of acquisition that has worked in the past. Mark Zuckerberg, in his wisdom, must have realized that Instagram was a true challenger. And so it was acquired. WhatsApp, it was acquired for $1 billion. Anurag may remember. WhatsApp was acquired for $19 billion within the last decade. And after that, nothing happened with it. It was left as is. So I think there is a criticism of very large tech players that it is a buy or bury strategy. Because the valuations that they are able to offer are so humongous that everybody is motivated to sell into that ecosystem. The other part which you asked me as a marketer, as an individual, my prescription for all is you assume that you live in a 100% transparent world. कई बार कुछ मान लीजिए दोस्तों के बीच में मजाक हो जाए या कुछ ऐसी उठ-पटांग चीज निकल जाए तो हम दूसरे को कहते हैं अरे अनुराग आपने क्या भेज दिया नहीं मैंने डिलीट कर दिया अरे डिलीट करके कहाँ गया वो ये तो किसी को नहीं मालूम so you can presume that delete doesn't mean gone. Delete just means it's not on the device. Right. And if you have done nothing wrong, if your motives are clear, then I think this transparency is not something to worry about. There is a very large movement in Europe and in America conscious about the demand for the right to be forgotten. And this I think is important, and now across the board legislation is moving in such a manner that you can accept all, reject all, only accept elemental query cookies, etc. Cookie harvesting has been a reason for narratives to be built up. Indians, in my opinion, this is personal opinion, nothing to do with my company or role. As Indians, we have very poor acknowledgement of privacy. Lollipop free mein mil raha ho to sab accept all, it doesn't matter. But you see, once you do that, then the system, you have accepted it. All of us use email of one sort or the other, are on multiple social platforms. Can one person tell me that they have actually gone and read the entire, check rules and conditions? It is impossible. अगर आप वो करोगे तो घर वाले आपको थेरेपी में भेज देंगे इसकी आजकल ऐसी हालत हो गई कि ये rules पढ़ता है applications. So even when we have time, we don't have the inclination to do that.
And one final thing that, you spoke about algorithmic anxiety and, that dopamine hit, which all of us crave, like, as you said, throughout this session as well. But when we come specifically to certain big ticket purchases, you know, whether it's motor vehicles or whatever, so how do you
That's a
bridge
polite
that
way of, actually not so polite way of saying, shut up and get off. Huh?
gap? How do you bridge that gap? Because it's not immediacy, but
So in the world of advertising, the world is divided half and half. In one half of the world, consumers are going looking for advertising, which is high involvement purchase. In the other half, advertisers are sending information looking for customers. दंत मंजन में ऐसी कोई विशिष्टता नहीं जिसकी वजह से एक मिस हो गया तो अरे तुमने ये खरीद लिया, like the gentleman was saying about Dabur Lalman, frankly. But there are, you identify more with deeper involvement, deeper purchases. Where your son goes to university is also a branded decision. That's a highly more involved decision. So you will ask people, you will look for opinion. There will be an information network that will equip you for that decision. So I think the role of high involvement purchases becomes more valuable in the digital era. But one thing I can tell you, language is also changing. मेरा बेटा अभी 16 साल का हुआ है, वो क्या अंग्रेजी लिखता है और बोलता है अपने दोस्तों के बीच, मुझे समझ में नहीं आती. Dad, you're savage. So I thought, what did I do? Or whatever, and lol and roll and all. I don't get it. It's my business to get it because I'm also marketing to youth. But that is the more concerning part, not concerning, that's the more relevant part, is that tools lead to habits, habit leads to culture. So, we say, oh, culture will assimilate that, but our culture I land out in a plane. आप सभी ने देखा होगा. The moment the plane lands, Indians have three itches. One is that मेरा overhead पता नहीं जैसे जादुई तौर पे वो गायब हो गया होगा. So they अगर एक Olympic medal होता just to open the overhead, then we would win gold every time because three people will stand in funny postures and open the overhead baggage compartment or whatever it's called. Second thing, they will now come alive with the screen. Even before, on this flight, the guy sitting in front of me said, "नहीं अभी land नहीं करी, अभी पहिए नहीं लगे हैं, land कर रहा हूँ." But he was having a conversation while the goddamn aircraft, so we are, anybody, you go to a metro, and everybody's on their screen. So our primary relationship is with the screen, and it's not one screen. There are 5-6 billion lit screens in the world. That is the world we live in. You can keep critiquing it. Best is to, like I said, look at it from different vantage points, and with that perspective, build a better life for yourself.
great.
Yeah?
Lovely. Thank you so much.